Good stuff. We've started the recording. Okay, everybody. So this evening, we have somebody on to talk to us. I love the Web3 space. So you have all heard me mention a couple of times, and if you're in the Telegram channel, you probably see me drop in a link or two. But I've been talking about these XNFTs, and some of you are here long enough. I know Viviana, you're here long enough. Jacinta, you're with us long enough. When NFTs came out at first a couple of years ago, and I was like, what's this shit with JPEGs? And I just wasn't getting it at all. Now, I know I've been talking about ordinals lately on Bitcoin because it brings new utility to Bitcoin. And then I start talking about these XNFTs. And I was able to reach out on Twitter to the co-founder of these XNFTs, Tristin, and ask him to come on and have a chat to us this evening. So Tristin is here with us now, and I am basically going to pass over to Tristin, and I'm going to allow him to introduce himself and then tell us all about XNFTs, the backpack wallet and app, and also his NFT project that he launched on top of XNFTs, which is MadLads NFTS. Tristin?
Awesome. Thank you for the invitation to come here and chat with all of you guys. Thanks for joining. Nice to meet all of you. So yeah, Paula reached out and wanted me to share a little bit with your group around what we're building. So I thought it'd be a cool opportunity to just give a little demo, walk you guys through the different things that we're building, how we're thinking about it, and sort of why we're building the things that we're building. I'm gonna share my screen as I speak, but so basically early last year, my co-founder and I knew we wanted to start something. We knew we wanted to create something that generated more on-chain behaviors and activities. And we didn't know exactly what it was going to be. And through that exploration process, we landed on the idea of a wallet because the wallet is this base distribution app that everybody uses within crypto, especially if you do any on-chain behaviors, you just need a non-custodial wallet. So we came to this realization, okay, a wallet's a really good thing to build. And then we were thinking, well, what justifies the existence of this wallet? Why should we build a new wallet? Just having a wallet with a better user experience or a better user interface wasn't going to make the cut and be compelling enough to hopefully find product market fit. So while we were exploring, we started thinking about WeChat. So WeChat, as many of you guys may know, is this base application, which is the messaging, but they also have an open developer ecosystem through which there are probably thousands of mini apps or plugins or widgets, however you want to call them, built by third parties that you can use within the WeChat base application. So when we started thinking about that, we said, oh, wow, that's very compelling. There's no wallet where you can kind of do the different experiences that you usually do on chain. Right now, you have to go to the website and connect your wallet and sign the transaction. And when we hit this, we said, okay, this is good, but do we have to host all the applications? Do we have any legal liability if somebody builds a gambling application and we're hosting it and allowing people to use it through our wallet, which is called Backpack? And we said, oh, darn, this might not be a great idea. The legal liability is probably not worth it. But while we were discussing the concept in general, we had our little eureka moment, which was when we realized that we could have essentially the NFT hosts the code, or another form of putting it is tokenized code. And that is what an XNFT is. So in the same way right now, if you look at existing NFTs, they have a metadata structure which has different entries. And one of those entries is something called the URI, which points at that JPEG. So the JPEG is not usually hosted on the blockchain itself. It's hosted on like Arweave or IPFS or some other hosting mechanism. And the token has a link that denotes ownership over that thing that's hosted and says, okay, this is mine, even though it lives on Arweave. And so what we did is we took the existing metadata structures and we just added a new line. And that new line was another URI line, but instead of pointing at a JPEG, it points at a bundle of code that lives on Arweave or IPFS. And so essentially, going back to what I said initially, you can think of it as a decentralized application or tokenized code. And so that was the first step in our journey of building out Backpack, which is, I'll show you guys Backpack so you guys have some context. So we built Backpack, which is this non-custodial, it's this non-custodial wallet, sort of in some senses what you're used to in the world of MetaMask and Phantom, where you have your balances, and right now we support Solana and Ethereum, and you can have your assets or your NFTs in here. But this XNFT innovation that I'm describing this is how it works. So essentially, you can come here to xnft.gg, which is the app store. These are all third-party built XNFTs using our open developer ecosystem. These are essentially all decentralized applications. And then what I can do as a backpack user is I can connect my backpack to the site, and I can add these XNFTs to my wallet. And so then I can run them directly in the wallet. So, here's a prices XNFT. I can check the price of Bitcoin, things that you usually do on TradingView or different websites. You can start to bring these behaviors directly into the wallet. I don't know, another example, these guys built an NFT project through an XNFT. They did their mint through their XNFT. TXO is an NFT marketplace where you can come and you can look at different collections. And I don't know if I have enough Sol in this wallet, but you can come in and purchase NFTs in the same way you would on a regular marketplace, and even things like mini games, for example. And I'll expand the window a little bit because it's more compelling, I think, from the gaming perspective if you have more size than if it's just in the little. But you could imagine, like, now people can build mini games, and they can build mini games in the same stack through which you have your crypto assets, the same stack through which you have your wallet, which is really nice because it means that now you can have like token issuances in the game or NFT issuances. And it's no longer this conceptualization of going somewhere, connecting your wallet, needing to know the specific URL of that website, and then being able to do the stuff. It's like you just have your wallet, you have xnft.gg, you can add these apps, and then you can start using them directly. Or if you're a builder, you can think of these as a new decentralized front end to whatever it is you have on the back end. It could be smart contracts on chain. It could be a game. It could be something that's a Web 2 backend. Like this Prices XNFT is actually backended by CoinGecko's API, while who's backended by smart contracts. So like the TXO, the Solend guys. I don't know if I have it added. Yeah, the Solend guys are a borrow lending platform. So this is just giving me an interface through which I can go and I can interact with their contracts on chain. So this was the first iteration of what we did, which was these apps, XNFTs as applications. And the next phase in our entire process was XNFT collectibles. So what does that mean? It means that right now, when you have NFTs, the view that you're used to is, let me see, these are kind of all scam NFTs, but I guess it serves the purpose of the explanation. The view you're used to is there's a title, there's a description, there's some attributes, and you can view and send your NFT. And that's about the entirety of the experience. If you want to go and have a token gated experience, you have to use several pieces of software. You have to have a lot of context on how to navigate the space before you can actually get to that token gated Discord channel or that token gated merch store or whatever token gated game experience like Dookie Dash did with their Dookie passes. So there's a lot of different steps in this process, but the way we're thinking of it is, what if you have your NFT in your wallet, and if you want, you can view it in the same way that you view a regular NFT, but also, what if you were able to just tie the token gated experience to the NFT itself? So as you guys may have seen just there, instead of clicking on the regular metadata view that you see for NFTs, I'm executing the executable component attached to this NFT, that bundle of code that is attached to that XNFT or that NFT that allows us to give custom unique experiences for people. This experience here, I'm going to close it because it has music and it's super loud in my headphones, but that experience is what we did for our mint for the MadLads. These are the MadLads right here. The MadLads, we have the XNFT component turned off right now because we're building the next experience for people. But one thing you can do here, which you usually wouldn't be able to do on a regular NFT, is you can directly join the holders chat within Backpack. So we have messaging in Backpack. I can come in here and say, hi, these are all the holders. This is the Backpack all chat. So these are all the people that are within Backpack. And the reason we're doing messaging isn't because we want to go compete with Telegram or Discord. It's because we want to really make native crypto experiences happen on the social layer. The way it works right now is we do things in crypto and then we go to Discord or Telegram and tell our friends or say, hey, we're going to mint this. Here's a link. Go do it. But what we want to do, and I'm not on the dev build, so this isn't live yet, but essentially much in the same way on iMessage, you have widgets that you can add. This is just like an NFT sticker, but in the same way you have widgets you can add, we'll also have a third-party ecosystem of widgets that people can add to their messaging. So if there's a mint, they can drop the mint in the chat. If I want to do P2P NFT trading, this isn't live yet, but I can right click someone's name. I'll be able to click trade. We'll have a little window pop up. We'll be able to do the trading together. And this kind of circles me back to Backpack itself, which is this non-custodial wallet. It's also this operating system for XNFTs, both on the app side and on the collectible side. And the way we're thinking of Backpack isn't just sort of a wallet, isn't just this view of these assets that you have in your wallet, but it's a bunch of complementary infrastructure pieces that the XNFT builders themselves can pull into the experiences that they're doing. So some examples of that is instead of operating on a public key basis, we're operating on a username basis where each username has a different subset of public keys associated with it. You have the ability to go and set an NFT PFP for your username. You can go into the messaging that I showed you guys. You can have bi-directional friendships, push notifications, RPC infrastructure, and all of these things have open APIs that the builders of the XNFT apps and the XNFT collectibles can use for whatever experiences they want to build. So I think one of the ones I have has that as an example. Let me see. Do I have the Nokiamon one? I don't know how this is going to look in large size. We still haven't optimized everything. But as you see here, I open up Nokiamon and my PFP is in here. My username is in here. And if they wanted, they could plug in the messaging and plug in any of the other things that we've built. So in some sense, it's kind of the things that we're building on the Backpack side is not only to be the best non-custodial wallet, but it's also to really reinforce the experience for those that want to build these XNFT apps and these XNFT collectibles. So broad strokes, that's who we are. That's what we're doing. We did our MadLads launch on the 21st, which was really successful. It's just a start, but it went really well. We had higher 7-day volume than any other collection in crypto, more than Bored Apes, which is the first time that's ever happened for a Solana-based project. So it was really exciting. But that being said, I'd love to just open it up to QA. Paula, I don't know how you guys usually do this, but happy to just kind of take questions and chat about it.
Yeah, that's absolutely fantastic. So it is. I have a couple of questions myself. So I have, first of all, by being able to access the apps directly through the wallet instead of having to go to a URL, can you talk about how that adds additional security for people in Web3?
Yeah, so there's a few components here, but one of the biggest ones is that it's really easy to get rugged or phished or drained in crypto if you don't know the exact website you're supposed to be using, if you don't know the real Twitter, to then go find the website from the Twitter bio. An example of this is about a year and a half ago, there was a big Solana mint called Aurori, and my fiance wasn't with me, and she wanted to mint one really bad, and she ended up on a wrong link, and her whole Phantom wallet got drained. So there's a lot of these cases. I think it's quite common. And so the difference now is that instead of having to go and navigate to that website yourself, you can show up at xnft.gg. And while we can't guarantee you that their code doesn't have bugs, we can guarantee you that they are who they say they are. So if there's a Magic Eden XNFT, it is Magic Eden that is building that. If there is an OpenSea XNFT, it is OpenSea building that. So as a brand new user that may not have the whole contextual awareness of everything happening in the space, you now have an avenue through which you can download a wallet, show up at an app store, and actually start using things on chain. And again, one thing to add to what I was explaining here is that so Backpack is open source, the XNFT protocol is open source. My co-founder built Anchor, which is the largest open source framework for development on Solana. And so it's very much in the ethos of our company. But the one place where we will keep a layer of curation is going to be the App Store. And the reason for that is we need to guarantee that when people show up here and they use the experiences here, they won't be victims of any malicious conduct.
Excellent, excellent. My second question that I have for you is, you built this on Solana. Why did you pick Solana, and will you be going cross-chain or multi-chain in the future?
Yeah, absolutely. So yes, we have started a lot of our building on Solana in the sense that the current live implementation of the XNFT protocol is on Solana. The MadLads were minted on Solana. We do have Ethereum support already for tokens and NFTs, although we do not have Ethereum XNFTs. The reasoning for Solana is, I would say, dual. One is that Armani and I have been working in the Solana ecosystem for years now. And so we have a lot of rapport, we have a lot of relationships in the ecosystem, and it was a natural home base for us to start before going multi-chain because we could get that initial traction, that initial user base that when we then showed up on the EVM chains would be much more compelling for their engineers to build experiences for Backpack. So that's one of the reasons. And the other reason is even though I'm not a maximalist and I use a lot of the different blockchains out there. I think that the UX that Solana provides is quite incredible, to be honest, especially for people who haven't been deep in crypto and they're showing up and they're wondering, why things aren't happening for 15 minutes. I think for them being able to pay very little in fees and have fast output is quite valuable. So those are, I think, the two reasons the two reasons why we are building on Solana initially. And now that we've launched MadLads, the goal over the next month or two is to finish integrating Wormhole, which is basically an asset bridging solution. And then we will start adding new chains to the wallet and then bringing the XNFT protocol to those new chains as well.
Excellent, excellent. And my final question before I open it up to everybody else for questions is the MadLads NFTs that you have. What functionality, you showed us chat and that in there, but what XNFT type functionality have you utilized in them?
Yeah, so I'll talk a little bit about the past, not the future, because I don't want to spoil the surprise. We're building a whole user journey throughout time through this experience. But what we did initially was in Backpack, there was a banner in the NFT tab. You would click on it. That's how you got your whitelist token. Then once you had your whitelist token, you could go and we created a whole experience where your whitelist token was an XNFT. You would click on it. It would open up this AI chat bot. You had to solve a riddle. Once you solved the riddle, you were able to mint your rug. Once you minted your rug, you had to wait for the public phase to be finished. And then when everyone waited for the public, when the public phase was finished, everyone had their rugs, everyone that successfully minted. And we then did a call to the community and said, go click on your rugs. We need everyone right now. And then everyone clicked on their rugs. And we did a sort of game-like final boss battle where it was this mad king and everyone had to click on it as fast as they could to get the HP bar down. And once we all defeated the mad king together, people could go and unrug their lads, as we called it, which meant that if they zoomed into the mad king, each rug that they had was one of the 10,000 pixels of this overall image of the mad king, which I showed for a moment earlier. I'm not sure if you guys saw it.
Yeah,
And
I've
then you
seen
could
it, yeah.
unrug your mad lad, and then you had the mad lad itself. So that was the sort of first user journey we did using the XNFT protocol and everything within Backpack. And then the next thing we did is we did a snapshot tweet, and we did it just kind of to mess around. And then we said, go check your Mad Lads, go click on your Mad Lads. And everyone clicked on their Mad Lads and they saw this one of one from the collection and a claim button. So they all thought they were going to get the one of one. And people were, oh my God, like I'm going to get the one of one. And they clicked claim. And then we had a Rickroll video. And so we just basically rickrolled them all. But it just the reason we did that is to showcase how this is a very open, versatile design space for creators on the NFT side to be able to give experiences to their community.
Excellent. Excellent. Thanks for those answers. I'll put it out there for everybody else to ask questions. Who would like to go first? Jacinth, you have your hand up.
Yeah, hi. Really, really enjoyed your presentation. I'm not sure if you're really going to work. It looks like you're just having fun, really, isn't it? Let's be real. I just wondered, it just sounds so broad. Is there any, in your opinion, is there any kind of limitations or caps that, how much can you load this? How you it sounds like a one-stop shop for virtually everything, and you don't a person doesn't need to leave you, which is probably the real KPI success factor really on it. But is there any limitations that you might have to iron out or you're thinking on as you go through and more and more people get engaged?
Yeah, that's a really good question. I think the largest limitation we've ran into is just prioritization because there's so many different things going on. Our team's really good at ideating, and so then we need to ruthlessly prioritize what we actually focus on. I mean, we have a world-class engineering team, so we're able to build a lot more than most people, but we still need to really refine what we're going to be doing. But the really nice thing about the structure of what we're building is we can be super brutally opinionated with what we want to focus on while still having this open developer ecosystem for external people to come and build things that complement what we're building. So an example of this is like, okay, maybe our next 2-month roadmap is to build out the MadLads XNFT experience. It's to do wormhole integrations, and it's to keep polishing Backpack interfaces and user experiences. So that's what we're going to focus on. But I kind of am really excited for XNFT mini games. I would love for there to be a bunch of mini games that you could play in Backpack that would give you little token emissions and stuff like that. And so what I can do is I can spend some time talking to different teams that build games and try and get them to come in and start building these mini games, which then complements the things that we're doing on our side. So even though there's a lot of prioritization we have to do, the nice part about it being an open developer ecosystem is we can kind of lean on others to do things that we can't do.
Excellent. Victor, you have your hand up there.
Hello, guys. I just wanted to know, as I understood, all the applications that I can add and access, they need to be from some app store, like Apple Store or Google Store. Is this right?
So they're all on a store called xnft.gg, and I'll put it in the chat here. So if you have backpack.app /download, which is the extension, where mobile is in internal testing, it's not live yet, so it's just the Chrome extension right now. But if you have that extension and then you go to xnft.gg, you can then add any of those XNFTs to your wallet and use them natively within it.
Sure. Yeah, but the point is, if I'm right, I need to go to the application store so I can get it. But it's kind of it creates limits because, for example, I try to download some apps from in Ireland, and as my account is from other country, I can't. So I need to create other email and so on. So this is one point, and also how to access the ones who are not there.
Yeah, so to your question on the first point, this isn't iOS, this isn't Android, this isn't Google Play. This is completely our own Web3 application store. So we don't have the limitations you have in iOS, where if you're in a certain country jurisdiction, you don't have certain apps. And everyone in the entire world will show up here and they'll be able to like see the same list of things and add them to your wallet. So that's one thing. And then the next question you asked was, what was the next question you asked? The second question?
Oh, wait. So first, it's about
Limitations of like seeing certain
yeah.
applications.
First, it was about Geo, and second was how to get the applications that are not in the stores.
Oh yeah, and so that's a really good question. So as I was saying earlier, xnft.gg is the curated layer. It's where we whitelist XNFTs that we know are okay and safe. But all these XNFTs live on chain. They are all like actually true decentralized applications. So if in Backpack you turn on developer mode, there's actually an XNFT explorer. So you can go and see all the XNFTs that sort of exist in the world and add them to your wallet at your own risk, basically. Or if a third party wanted to come and build an app store that showed all the gambling XNFTs and all the derivative XNFTs, they could do that, and then you could go there and add it.
Perfect. My question was that if it was kind of a whitelisting, and also if I could add apps from other sources. So yeah, sure, makes sense. Thanks, Emilio, for the answer.
Excellent. Who else has a question there for Tristin? I see somebody's hand up in the audience, but I can't find who it is. Just while I'm looking there, Tristin, how many are on your team?
There's 11 of us right now. It's a pretty engineering heavy team. So we have 7 engineers and then distribution on design and, kind of content, marketing, business development. It's really the engineers, 2 designers, our GC, my co-founder Armani, who kind of oversees engineering and a lot of other stuff, and then Gonzalo and I, who do kind of all the operations and marketing and community stuff and business development and whatnot.
Good stuff. Viviana, you have your hand up there.
Yes, I was wondering if the people like kind of developing all this are part-time, full-time, or they had to like kind of be enlisted in a DAO, or as everything is like kind of contribution based. Thanks.
Yeah, so there's a mix of things. So there are teams who have existing projects that sort of live on their websites and they have users and they have traction, and they build an XNFT as just like an alternative way for users to find and use their product. There are teams who are launching their product for the first time as an XNFT. So they come and they build something, and the first way that they put it out into the world is through an XNFT. And then there are folks just like on their spare time, kind of building stuff for fun and adding that to the store. So we have kind of a wide variety of people who are building these.
Justin, do you have your hand up as well?
Yeah, just one more. You mentioned it a little bit earlier, but I just wondered, what does the next 18 months look like? What's your timeline? What are the, maybe you could pick out top 3 or top 5 things that you think are milestones for you,
Yep.
and what will satisfy you if you were to achieve them?
Oh, that's a really hard one in crypto with how fast everything moves. But
I know.
let me start with
Maybe 18 months
let
is
me
too
start with
long.
like 6 months. I'll start with like 6 months, and I'll feel a little bit more rooted if I give answers there than 18 months. But in the next 6 months, the things that we would love to have live and sort of in the public's hands are the mobile app. So that will be an iOS app, that will be an Android app, and that will be a Solana Saga phone app. So those 3 things. We would like to have the wormhole bridge natively integrated into Backpack so people can do easy cross-chain transfers. And we would like to have the XNFT protocol on EVM so that people on like Ethereum could build XNFTs. And lastly, we would really want the MadLads to be truly dominating on the Solana NFT ecosystem in the sense of like having a clear price distinction with all the other projects so that people kind of recognize them as a tier apart. That would be a really, really good 6 months.
Excellent. Simon, you have your hand up there now.
Yeah, hi Tristan. I'm really, really impressed with how XNFTs look. Have you got any plans to launch or issue a token linked to XNFTs?
Yeah, no plans whatsoever for the token. For now, we're just like traditional equity company. It's really hard to ever like IPO or go public if you do ever issue a token. It's like one of the 2 chances. I mean, not that it's easy to go public if you're a crypto company anyway, to be honest, but issuing a token is basically makes it impossible for you to go that route down the line. So we're not planning or thinking of it at all at the moment.
Okay, and second question, if I can. It sounds quite unique what you're doing. I've not seen or heard of anything like it before. Have you got any competitors or anyone doing similar at the moment?
So part of the reason we knew it was a really good idea is because it was so obvious, but nobody was doing it when we hit on it. I think like that's one of the distinctions of when you have a good idea. I was like, oh wow, how has no one done this yet? There are now quite a bit of people doing the same thing ever since it's kind of like the guy who ran the first, what was it, the 4 minute mile or something, and then everybody started doing it right after. Like when we started implementing this and sharing it with the world, we started seeing several projects doing it. The most notably is actually the Sui blockchain. When Armani spoke to their CTO for a while and shared XNFTs with them, I think he liked it so much that they're implementing at a token program level in their blockchain, like pretty much the same concept. So we're starting to see people implement it and you do similar things, but we have quite a head start and we have quite an engineering team, and I'm like quite optimistic that we will stay ahead of the curve. And one thing that's like quite counterintuitive is sadly a lot of projects, especially this is one of the failures that's still happening in the Solana ecosystem that needs to change, are closed source. So they're building all this cool stuff, but no one can actually go and verify what they're building. And we've taken a very different approach. So all our code is open. People could come and like potentially, try and fork us and build stuff, but we just kind of have confidence in our team's capacity, and also just like the strength that ethos gives us when we are building.
Yeah. I've got another question. It's a little bit off of XNFTs, but the current trend in things like AI bots and the like, there's a lot of speculation about where that's going to take the space. How do you see things evolving over the next few years in the blockchain space?
Yeah, that's an interesting question. So I think AI is the buzzword right now, without a doubt. That's kind of all these companies have pivoted to raising on AI strategies. A lot of them are just kind of like cheap GPT wrappers, and those are all going to go out of business as like OpenAI builds those same solutions themselves. There are some real optimizations happening where people are making very specific LLMs dependent on like very specific business models that give better outputs than the large language models that are general. So I think that will be interesting. And the reason I bring that one up is I think in crypto, we're starting to see some people try and make large language models specific to crypto. So we'll see if anything interesting happens there. we did a tiny bit here when we added that chat bot as the riddle as a game for people to play around with. And there are some XNFTs that are actually like chat GBT wrappers. And super early on when we were still in like the closed beta and we didn't have anyone in, we had a waiting room where we did like stable diffusion generated images and people had to guess the prompt. So I think there's like fun implementations. We haven't thought of it at all as a core business model, but I think it's a really interesting technology. I think crypto generally is being ratified by the state of the world right now. I think it's just becoming clearer and clearer and clearer that people need an option through which they can find self-sovereignty and sort of like permissionless forms of financial interactions between each other. And I think that's just like becoming clearer than it ever has before. So I think from that perspective, crypto is in a really, really good place. I think Bitcoin has found a narrative again for the first time since the last halving, and Paul Tudor Jones basically made it kosher for large investment funds to put money into Bitcoin. That was the last narrative Bitcoin had. And I think it's finding a new narrative now with the banking crisis in the United States. And obviously, look, I'm a US person. I live in the US, so my views will be very US centric. But Bitcoin has definitely had a narrative this whole time in like Nigeria and Argentina and these places where their fiat currencies are going to shit. But from the US perspective, I think it's a little bit sad because US people sometimes have a hard time wrapping their heads around how valuable all of this is because we live in like such a functional society. But now when these pieces start to fall, I think it becomes much clearer for everyone, even in the US, that these technologies are super important for us to live as self-sovereign humans going forward.
Tristin, I'll hop back in there for a second, if that's okay. When you were answering Jacinth's question there a minute ago, you mentioned the Solana phone. Are you currently on the Solana phone? And would you like, I don't have a Solana phone, so I haven't played around with it yet. I don't know what the story is. Would you see yourself Backpack being the main wallet featured on Solana's phone at some stage?
Yeah, I think that's feasible. I think what we're going to end up doing with them is that'll be the first external place where you can natively have XNFTs. So XNFTs will live in their application, their dApp store, basically. Part of the reason for that is because we've had a really successful business development outreach where a lot of people have built these XNFTs, so they kind of want those within their dApp store. So on one dimension, you'll see these XNFTs as native apps within Saga. And then on the other dimension is will just be a wallet option within Saga and hopefully have enough things within us that everyone will just want to use Backpack as their default wallet.
Excellent. Anybody else got any questions there for Tristin?
Yeah, I just want to chime in. I'm just curious on like the Web3 angle and like decentralization. So I'm kind of looking into this now, and I'm seeing like a lot of points of centralization, and I'm kind of questioning, you know, where is the crypto narrative here, or like where's like the uniqueness specifically for like why are you building this on crypto instead of Web2? So I just want to get more insight into like your decentralization plans and like why specifically you want to build this type of platform on a blockchain.
Yeah, sure. So one really compelling thing about XNFTs is that they are tokens on the blockchain, thus they are decentralized. And if they are hosting code, that application, or at least that front end, is decentralized. Don't get me wrong, like if you're Magic Eden or your Tensor or your OpenSea, you run a ton of other infrastructure that is tied to your company and you have bills and you have all these different points of failure. So even if you build an XNFT, that doesn't decentralize you. But if you're a brand new DeFi protocol and you don't have an entity name that you can use to spin up a domain, a website, and you have to wait 6 months to now pay, you know, like the $100,000 to get your entities set up offshore and get your domain name and all of these different things, that's no longer an issue if you want to just ship like a DeFi XNFT. It's not tied to you as long as you don't have like this external Web2 infrastructure that is like tied to your name and it's just smart contracts on chain and the XNFT has the front end to those contracts, so like kind of like Uniswap to some degree, then it is an actually fully decentralized application. Or for example, if you were in a country that banned freedom of speech and you wanted to create a messaging application where you could communicate with your peers or share sort of dissenting opinions, as long as you used sort of, again, non-Web 2 backend infrastructure for this, you could build an XNFT and it would be an actually decentralized sort of like messaging system or message bus or something of that nature. So there are aspects of this that feed very much into the whole decentralization narrative. That being said, we are trying to build a consumer business. We are in the business of building excellent user experiences. And as such, there will be a lot of points in this system that are centralized that allow for that optimal user experience. So we're not claiming hardcore decentralization or sort of going down that route. We're trying to build something that will hopefully get millions of users. And that's sort of the perspective we're taking.
Okay, thanks for that. So to follow up on that, so you mentioned, the elements of centralization, especially on like the front end, because you're a consumer-facing business. And then before you were talking how, you're not iOS or you're not Google Play, you don't have to play by those rules. But the thing is, you will have to play by those rules probably sooner rather than later, because you are a consumer-facing business. And so while these XNFTs are theoretically decentralized, you, the UI provider, are not decentralized. So like especially because you're US based, you'll fall under those same regulations as the Apple and Google's. So how are you going to go about that? Have you thought about that? Do you have legal counsel? Have you, what's your kind of thinking around, how you as a company are going to be regulated from this centralized front end?
Yeah, that's a really good question. So a couple points there. One is, yes, if we want to have our iOS app and our Android app, we will have to conform to their rules, and we will have to limit the functionality that exists within these applications, and they won't have the full XNFT functionality on the Apple iPhone, right? In Saga, we have full range to do everything. And then from the point of how we are regulated, yes, we have extremely good legal counsel, and we are a platform that essentially is able to run these dApps that are added to Backpack. We are not a publisher. We have no hosting over any of these. We have no liability over anything except for things that we would whitelist into xnft.gg. So if somebody builds a gambling XNFT and somebody else builds a secondary store, or somebody just finds it on chain and uses it, that is not liability for us directly. And I do agree that the US environment is getting increasingly hostile towards crypto companies. So we are actually moving offshore quite soon. Not because we have immediate concerns and not because we're being targeted or expect to be targeted soon, but just to have more flexibility and begin to seek different licensing regimes to add further components to what we're doing. Like from the non-custodial wallet perspective, it's pretty kosher for now, and we have some time before, like, it's so this may be a fallacy, but the theory is a little bit the theory that a lot of DeFi protocols have, which is like they're going to go after Uniswap first, they're going to go after 1inch first, they're going to go after Aave first if they really want to go against DeFi, and so we'll have time to see and adapt. I think that's a little bit our theory with sort of MetaMask and Phantom and these really large providers. But that being said, we are actually actively moving towards having a system through which we have legal jurisdictions in which we operate legally as well.
Yeah, thanks for that, Tristan. So just one last thing, just from the technical side. So I'm looking at the implementation details for these XNFTs. And so if I want to make one, I embed this metadata. And then there's like a lot of links to AWS infrastructure for a lot of them, which is understandable. But if I wanted to update this metadata, like, can I do that? Or is it permanent metadata on chain? Or do I have to like modify these AWS links? So like, do I have to reissue a new NFT? Like, how do I go about, doing a new version?
So if you go to xnft.gg/publish, which is where sort of the XNFTs as apps creation flow exists, you basically upload an index.html file, which you can then choose to be hosted on Arweave, IPFS, or S3, depending on the user's preference. And then when you mint that token, you can come back and yes, you have the ability to update the metadata, which updates the application. You basically update the code bundle, which updates the application.
Okay, and how does that actually, well, I guess I need to look into that. But can you just explain, is this like on chain, this metadata updating?
Yeah, update the index.html file that you mint with the NFT. And when you update that updates the application experience. And if you chose Arweave or IPFS, that is hosted in a decentralized manner. And eventually gets, it's like republished to the hosting program, and your token will always point to that code bundle.
Okay, so the NFT is just like a pointer, and then you're updating that, like what that pointer is pointing to, right?
Yeah,
So,
exactly. And if you want to have it be fully decentralized, you upload that code bundle to Arweave or IPFS. If you don't really care and you're just trying to build a consumer experience, you can upload it to S3, up to the discretion of each person building their XNFT.
Okay, but say if I wanted full decentralization and I upload to Arweave, wouldn't then I can't change it, right?
So
Or can I still change it?
If you decided to make it immutable and you removed the update authority, you can never change it. But for now, it has an update authority, and that update authority allows you to effect changes on the metadata.
Okay, got it.
Great questions, Robert. Tristin, I have another question there, if you don't mind. How do you plan? You talked about like being a business and trying to get loads of customers and stuff. How do you plan on monetizing?
Yeah, so for now, the only thing we really have thought out is how all wallets make money, which is just like swap fees in the wallet. You tack on an extra fee, and if people that want the convenience of just swapping directly in their wallet, we generate fees from that. So that's the first part. We, with the mint that we just did with MadLads and the royalties, we've also added another year of runway for ourselves, which is really nice. But right now, priority is just getting users. If we get users, it gets because we're like a two-sided marketplace basically. So if we get the users, it really brings in the engineers and people that want to build experiences for those users. So once we're able to like actually get I think right now we have like 70,000 unique downloads of the extension, which is like not bad for just coming out of private beta, but we really need to up those numbers. And then maybe we can start thinking of other forms of revenue or monetization.
The NFTGG website sounds like the marketplace as such. Would you consider charging, I'm sure there's a lot of work then that goes in if you're curating the apps that are on it to prove they are who they say they are. That's time consuming. And will you be charging apps then to submit to the store as such?
No, we don't want to go the Apple App Store or Google Play Store approach. We want to actually, like, if we did anything in that store, in like xnft.gg, it would probably be like have a featured section where you can pay to have your app featured there, or stuff like that. But we want to make it, low overhead for people to be able to create these applications and also be able to provide experiences to people within the applications without us trying to like take any revenue from the experiences they're creating.
Excellent. Okay, has anybody else got any questions there for Tristin? No, excellent. Well, look, on that then, Tristin, I'm going to thank you very, very much for the time that you've given up here to speak with us all today. Personally, because I have been following all of your story and stuff like that, and I love what yous are doing. You have a user in me. And I'll continue to spread the word about them. Also being on Solana, yourself, I'm on Solana too. So I really do appreciate your time coming here this evening, and I'd like to thank you very much from both myself and all of the community. And when we edit the recording, I'll send you on a copy of it so you can share it on. But thank you very much for your time this evening, and I won't keep you any longer. I'm sure you're probably up to your eyeballs. I know you had said, I'd be free for a half an hour, and we've kept you 50 minutes. So I don't want to take up too much more of your time. And just thank you very, very much.
Yeah, thanks for having me. Thanks for everyone for listening and hanging out. Have a great rest of your day.
We
Bye.
will. And some lovely comments in the chat for you as well. Great presentation and fantastic demo and stuff. So excellent.
Thank you. Bye.
Good stuff. See you later, Tristin. Okay, well, look, we still have 10 minutes left. So we have, what did you all think of that?
They look awesome, don't they? I mean, just from the demo, and when he said that it was something that no one else was doing, and now all of a sudden everyone else has cottoned on. but there's so much scope for it, isn't there? And I think looking at where I was at an event today, and it's really interesting listening to the public's view of what NFTs are, because it's very much still PFPs and, oh yeah, I've got a badly pixelated JPEG that's on the blockchain. And one of the things that came out was talking about things like dynamic NFTs, talking about the potential for, I mentioned the XNFTs and what we're doing tonight. It's a really exciting space, and anyone that says NFTs or the space is dead, they're just mad.
What I really like about it is the fact that it bypasses Web 2. So if there's an app in there, like if Uniswap were to build an XNFT and you go straight into your wallet and you can access Uniswap from your wallet, there's no way you can go to the wrong URL, which is such a big scam at the moment. I got scammed the other day on Twitter. I fell for a paid ad for an NFT project that I was following. And I clicked the link because I was actually on their Twitter page, literally on their Twitter page. And within it, there was a paid ad. I hadn't realized it was a paid ad, but it was a link to their mint. And I clicked on it and I went and I minted. And now I only had a tiny little bit of Ethereum in that wallet, but my wallet got drained. There was 0.008 Ether, or maybe 0.08. Yeah, 0.08 Ether in it. And my wallet got drained. That can't happen if you have this sort of technology, because you're not going to, if it's not in your wallet, it's not real. And that's kind of what attracted me to them, and what I found fascinating with them was the security feature about them. Was there anything else interesting you found about them? Robert, your questions were really interesting.
Yeah, I think it's an interesting concept. For me, I'm still having difficulty grasping my mind around like the real world applicability. So like, it's a fascinating concept, but it's kind of like when NFTs first came in the world, like when like CryptoKitties, like when CryptoKitties came, I just looked at them and thought like, this doesn't make any sense. Why are people, making these random artworks? It took, a few years for it to really develop out and build into the NFT ecosystem that we have now, where we have real world utility. And so I feel that there's going to be real world utility in the future. I don't know how far ahead in the future that will be. Right now I'm looking at this and it just seems, it's games. Like the examples Tristin gave was like games, and like that's good in the short term, but we just had a gaming bust in crypto. And people are shying away from crypto gaming, so that might limit their traction until they find some other use cases. And I'm just trying to rack my brain around, what are these other use cases going to be? So that security narrative is interesting, but I've also seen other like approaches to that. So there's these have been these audit stores. There's the Lace wallet on Cardano that has taken a different approach. There are other ways to make crypto more secure, so I don't think that's going to be their killer feature. The concept is brilliant. We got to wait for this to kind of catch on before it clicks, like, there's a lot of real world use cases here. I'm just not seeing that yet, but I think the technology is really cool.
I think his reference he made to WeChat and the WeChat app. So most of us in Europe don't have the WeChat app, but the WeChat app was originally just a chat app. And then all of a sudden there's these apps within this app, and you can go shopping when you're in WeChat, and you can order a taxi when you're in WeChat, and you can do everything from within WeChat without having to leave WeChat at all. And I think that's kind of where they're hoping to go, sort of thing.
Yeah, and that's great, but like that's also a very much centralized experience where they're going to be subject to competition, because if they go that route, then they're kind of cornering themselves into being a wallet developer. And I'm more interested in the protocol. but they don't seem to have like a monetization plan for the protocol itself. Like they're not issuing a token, they're going all in on their wallet. And so that could be a really good approach if they're able to stay ahead of the competition. But if they have this open source protocol that anybody can just come along and build a brand new wallet experience and just plug in, then they are opening up the gateways for a lot of competition for them. So that's going to be interesting to see. Like if they just are going to be like a WeChat, like that's really cool. It's not the type of business I would personally want to be in because there's too much competition.
Andrew, are you there with us? If you are, be really interesting to hear, because I know you've got to play with the new Radix wallet and how this compares to the experience within the new Radix wallet and the Radix system.
Sorry, Paul, I just missed the start of that. Can you repeat that bit?
Yeah, I just would be interested to hear how it compares to the new Radix wallet that's coming out and the experience that goes along with the whole new upgrade that's happening on Radix.
Yeah, it was a brilliant demo. And I think you slightly, Tristin touched on the fact that like Sui looking at doing something similar as well, or doing a native implementation of that same feature. And that's very similar to how it'd be the same sort of capability or possibility on Radix. So it's obviously Radix hasn't launched yet, or the Babylon upgrade hasn't launched yet. So there's still sort of quite a bit of a gap in getting to that sort of stage. But yeah, absolutely. My mind was like. My mind was clicking over. Yeah, absolutely. This is something that could be done really easily, native, probably a lot simpler in some respects, and from a technology point of view, it just means that someone's actually got to build it. That's the probably the biggest sort of hurdle as such. So, but yeah, it's really cool. I love the idea, and I'm sure at some point, I know there's a couple of fellow Radix ambassadors is a big Solana fan as well, and he sort of raves about the backpack and MadLads and all that kind of stuff as well. So no doubt he's got some ideas around how that could be implemented as well.
Good. Well, look, it is 9 o'clock now, so we are going to wrap up. So just to remind you all, we're back on Tuesday with Simon. Simon's just dropped some links in there to our social channels. So if you haven't joined our social channels, please do so. And don't forget, we'll have a bit of a new flow for when you join the meetup the next time, that you will land on a waiting page as such. Before you're led into the meeting room, and hopefully it'll run smoothly. If it doesn't, bear with us for a minute or two as we fix things, because it will be our first under our new brand. So until then, I'll see you all in 2 weeks' time back here. Have a wonderful week. Oh, actually, one final thing before we go. There isn't too many people here from Dublin, so I'm actually going to wait to do this giveaway until the next meetup. I have some free tickets, or I have some tickets to give away for free to the Dublin Tech Conference. And the Dublin Tech Conference is on Wednesday, the 31st of May and Thursday, the 1st of June. I myself am hosting a panel, the blockchain panel, at that conference. And I know that the co-founder of VeChain will be on it along with some other guests. So I'll have some tickets to give away at the next meetup. So do attend and take part in the giveaway. And that's it then. Take it easy.
Cheers. Thanks, Paula.
Bye now. See you,
Yeah,
Andrew.
that's
See you,
bye-bye.
Victor. See you, Jacinta. See you, Viviana. See you, Alana. See you,
Paula.
Freak.